The Antarctic wind howled like a living thing, rattling the windows of the research station. Dr. Alina Vasquez pulled her thermal jacket tighter as she studied. The ice core samples under the microscope. Something was wrong with the readings. The electromagnetic signatures were unlike anything she had seen in 15 years of polar research. "Jake, you need to see this," Alina called to her research partner, who was monitoring the weather systems from across the small laboratory. Jake Morrison looked up from his instruments, his weathered face creased with concern. The storm outside was intensifying, and their extraction helicopter would not be able to reach them for at least 3 days. "What is it, Alina?" She gestured to the monitor displaying the ice core analysis. "These readings are impossible. Look at this crystalline structure embedded at the 30-meter depth. It is not natural ice formation." Jake moved closer, his shoulder brushing against Alina's as he leaned over the screen. She felt a familiar flutter in her chest, the same one she experienced whenever he came near. Their professional partnership had always walked the line between friendship and something more, though neither had ever acknowledged it openly. "Geometric," Jake murmured, his breath warm against her ear. "Like it was manufactured." Lena nodded, trying to focus on the data rather than his proximity. "The electromagnetic readings suggest it is still active somehow. I think we need to excavate this site immediately. In this weather." "Lena, that is insane." "The storm will be here for days," she interrupted, turning to face him. Their faces were inches apart now, and she could see the golden flecks in his brown eyes. "We have the equipment. If we wait, this discovery could be lost forever when the ice shifts." Jake studied her face, seeing the determination that had made her one of the most respected marine biologists in her field. "All right, but we do this carefully. No unnecessary risks." 2 hours later, they stood at the excavation site, the portable heater struggling against the bitter cold. The drilling equipment had revealed something extraordinary. Embedded in the ice was what appeared to be a crystalline pod, roughly the size of a small vehicle, glowing faintly with an inner light. "My God," Alina whispered, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. "Jake, this is not from Earth." Through the translucent walls of the pod they could make out a figure, humanoid in shape, but clearly not human. The being appeared to be female, with pale, almost luminescent skin and long, flowing hair that seemed to move despite being frozen in ice. Jake circled the pod slowly, his scientific training warring with his instinctive caution. "Alina, we need to contact the base. This is beyond our expertise." "The communications are down because of the storm," Alina replied, not taking her eyes off the figure in the pod. There was something hauntingly beautiful about the alien woman, something that made Alina's heart ache with unexpected emotion. "We are on our own until the weather clears." As if responding to their presence, the pod's glow intensified slightly. Both researchers stepped back instinctively, but Alina found herself drawn forward again almost immediately. "She looks so peaceful," Alina murmured, placing her gloved hand against the crystalline surface. "Almost like she is just sleeping." The moment Alina's hand made contact, the pod pulsed with light, and readings on their instruments spiked dramatically. Jake grabbed Alina's arm, pulling her back, but she resisted. "Alina, we do not know what kind of contamination she is alive." "Jake," Alina interrupted, her voice filled with wonder. "Look at the thermal readings. There is brain activity, heartbeat. She is alive in there." The storm outside seemed to intensify, as if nature itself was responding to their discovery. Snow began to pile against the windows of their research station. Jake realized with growing concern that they might be trapped here longer than anticipated. "We need to get this pod back to the station," Alina said, her mind already working through the logistics. "She is alive. We might be able to help her." Jake looked at his partner, seeing the compassion that had always defined her approach to marine life now extended to this mysterious being. "Alina, think about what you are saying. We do not know anything about her species, her biology, whether she could be dangerous." Alina turned to face him, her dark eyes blazing with conviction. "Look at her, Jake. Does she look dangerous to you? She looks lost, alone. How long has she been trapped in that ice?" As they worked to carefully transport the pod back to their heated laboratory, Alina could not shake the feeling that this discovery would change everything. Not just for science, but for her personally. There was something about the alien woman that called to her on a level she could not explain. The storm raged on outside, sealing them in with their extraordinary find, and Alina found herself staring at the sleeping figure, wondering what secrets lay hidden in the ice of her heart. The laboratory hummed with activity as Alina carefully monitored the pod's gradual thawing process. She had been working for 18 hours straight, adjusting temperatures and tracking vital signs with the dedication of a mother watching over her child. Jake had tried to convince her to rest, but she refused to leave the alien woman's side. "Alina, you are going to collapse if you do not get some sleep," Jake said, entering the lab with 2 cups of hot coffee. The storm outside continued to rage, and their small world had shrunk to this one room filled with mysterious light and possibility. "I cannot leave her now," Alina replied, not taking her eyes off the monitors. Her brain activity has been increasing steadily. "I think she is waking up." As if summoned by Alina's words, the crystalline pod suddenly cracked with a sound like breaking glass. Both researchers froze as hairline fractures spread across the surface, and a soft, melodious sound emerged from within. It was not quite human, but unmistakably the sound of someone stirring from deep sleep. The pod split open with a gentle hiss, releasing a cloud of vapor that smelled of ozone and something floral Alina could not identify. The alien woman's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of the deepest violet Alina had ever seen. For a moment, time seemed suspended, as the woman looked directly at Alina. And there was something in her gaze that transcended species, language, and understanding. It was pure, vulnerable confusion mixed with an intelligence that spoke of vast knowledge and experience. Then fear took over. The woman tried to sit up too quickly, her limbs unsteady after what must have been decades of suspended animation. She looked around wildly, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings, the strange equipment, and the 2 humans watching her with fascination and concern. She spoke then, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, but the words were completely foreign. Jake instinctively stepped back, his hand moving toward the emergency beacon, but Alina moved forward instead. "It is all right," Alina said softly, her voice taking on the same gentle tone she used with frightened marine animals. "You are safe. We are not going to hurt you." The alien woman's violet eyes fixed on Alina's face, studying her features with intense concentration. Slowly, she raised one pale hand toward Alina, her fingers trembling with weakness and uncertainty. Alina looked back at Jake, seeing the concern and fear in his expression, but her heart made the decision for her. She reached out and gently took the woman's hand in her own. The alien's skin was surprisingly warm, with a texture like silk, and at the moment of contact, both women gasped softly. Images flashed through Alina's mind. Glimpses of a world with 2 suns, crystalline cities that stretched toward purple skies, and a catastrophe that had torn apart everything beautiful and safe. She saw starships fleeing through space, the terrible loneliness of being the last survivor of a dying civilization. The alien woman seemed to experience something similar, her eyes widening as she apparently accessed Alina's memories through their connection. She saw Earth's oceans, the marine life Alina studied and protected, and the loneliness that had driven Alina to dedicate her life to understanding creatures who could not speak for themselves. "Zara," the woman whispered suddenly, placing her free hand over her heart. "Zara, that is your name," Alina said, understanding immediately. "Zara, it is beautiful." She placed her own hand over her heart. "Alina." Zara repeated the name slowly, her pronunciation careful and precise. "Alina." Then she smiled, and it transformed her entire face, making her appear not alien at all, but simply a woman grateful for kindness. Jake watched this exchange with growing amazement and concern. "Alina, we need to run medical scans, check for diseases, establish proper containment protocols." But Alina was lost in Zara's eyes, seeing depths of emotion and experience that called to something fundamental in her own nature. "She has been alone for so long, Jake. Can you not see it? She is not a specimen to be studied. She is a person who needs help." Over the following hours, Alina worked patiently to establish communication with Zara through gestures, simple drawings, and the strange empathic connection they seemed to share, a basic understanding began to develop. Zara had come from a star system far from Earth, fleeing the destruction of her home world. Her ship had crashed in Antarctica decades ago, and she had entered the survival pod as a last resort. Jake remained skeptical, but found himself gradually drawn into their efforts to communicate. He watched Elena's face light up each time Zara successfully conveyed a new concept. He began to understand that something profound was happening between the two women. As night fell and the storm continued to rage outside, Elena brought Zara warm soup and a blanket. The alien woman was still weak, her body adjusting to being active again after so long in suspended animation. When Elena tucked the blanket around her shoulders, Zara caught her hand and held it gently. "Thank you, Zara," said in heavily accented, but unmistakable English. Having apparently absorbed the language from their mental connection, Elena's heart skipped a beat at hearing Zara speak her language. "You learned so quickly." Zara's violet eyes searched Elena's face with an intensity that made her breath catch. Kind. Different from what I expected of your species. "What did you expect?" Elena asked, settling into the chair beside Zara's. "Makeshift bed. Cruelty. Violence. Fear of what is different." Zara's voice was soft but carried the weight of terrible experience. "My people studied yours from afar. We thought humans would see us as threats." Elena felt a surge of protectiveness that surprised her with its intensity. "Not all humans are like that. Some of us believe that understanding and compassion can bridge any gap." Zara squeezed Elena's hand gently, and in that simple touch both women felt the first stirrings of something that would change both their worlds forever. 3 days passed in a cocoon of forced intimacy as the storm continued to rage outside their research station. Elena and Zara had fallen into a routine that felt surprisingly natural. Each morning, Elena would check Zara's vital signs and help her with basic needs, their communication growing stronger with each interaction. Zara's recovery was remarkable. Her alien physiology seemed to adapt quickly once awakened, when she was soon able to move around the small laboratory with increasing confidence. Elena found herself mesmerized by the graceful way Zara moved. Like a dancer performing an intricate ballet, even in the simple act of crossing the room, Jake maintained his scientific objectivity, but could not help noticing the growing bond between the two women. He watched Elena teach Zara about human customs, showing her how to use eating utensils, explaining the function of various technological devices, and sharing stories about Earth's diverse cultures. "On my world, we shared knowledge through direct mental connection," Zara explained during one of their evening conversations. The three of them sat around the small heater, sharing a meal of heated rations. "This verbal communication you use is intimate in a different way." Elena blushed at Zara's observation, realizing how much time they had spent talking, their faces close together as they worked through language barriers and cultural differences. "How so?" "When minds touch directly, you cannot hide your thoughts or feelings," Zara said, her violet eyes reflecting the heater's glow. "But with words, you choose what to reveal. It requires trust, vulnerability." Jake cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Speaking of your world, Zara, can you tell us more about what happened? Why did your people have to flee?" Zara's expression grew somber, and Elena instinctively reached for her hand, offering comfort. The gesture had become natural between them. Over the past few days, a connection that transcended their different origins. "Our son was dying," Zara began, her voice heavy with grief. "Not in the natural way stars die, but corrupted by something artificial. Another species, one that consumed entire solar systems for energy. We called them the Devourers." She paused, her fingers tightening around Elena's. "My people were scientists, artists, explorers. We had never known war. When the Devourers came, we were unprepared for such... absolute cruelty." Elena felt Zara's pain through their touch, the echo of loss and trauma that ran deeper than words could express. "How many of your people escaped?" "I do not know," Zara whispered. "The evacuation. Ships were separated during the escape. I was part of the outer research fleet, studying distant worlds for potential colonies. When we tried to return home, she shook her head, unable to continue. You don't have to talk about it if it hurts too much, Elena said gently, but Zara squeezed her hand and continued. My ship was damaged in a devourer attack. Navigation systems failed and I crashed here on your world. I had studied Earth from afar and thought perhaps humans might be willing to help. But I was injured, dying from the crash. The survival pod was my only chance. Jake had been listening intently, his scientific mind processing the implications of Zara's story. How long were you in that pod? By your calendar, approximately 47 years, Zara replied, though time passed differently in suspended animation. For me, it felt like a long, strange dream filled with fragments of memory and hope. Alina felt a surge of emotion at the thought of Zara trapped alone in that crystalline prison for nearly 5 decades. What did you dream about? Zara turned to look directly at Alina, her violet eyes intense and searching. I dreamed of someone who would find me, someone with gentle hands and kind eyes. Someone who would see past my differences and help me heal. The words hung in the air between them, charged with meaning that went beyond simple gratitude. Alina felt her heart racing as she recognized the implication in Zara's words. The possibility that their meeting was somehow destined. Jake stood abruptly, uncomfortable with the intensity of the moment. I need to check the weather monitoring equipment, he announced, though they all knew the instruments were functioning perfectly, as Jake busied himself with unnecessary tasks on the other side of the laboratory. Lena and Zara found themselves alone in their small circle of warmth and light. The storm outside seemed to fade into background noise as they sat facing each other, hands still joined. Lena, Zara said softly, in my dreams, you were there. Before I knew what you looked like, before I knew your species existed, I dreamed of your face. Elena's breath caught in her throat. That's impossible. Is it? Zara asked, lifting her free hand to gently touch Elena's cheek. My people believed that consciousness could transcend time and space when sufficiently motivated. Perhaps my need to survive, my hope for rescue, reached across the years to find you. The touch of Zara's fingers against her skin sent electricity through Elena's entire body. She had never experienced anything like the connection she felt with this extraordinary woman. I know, Zara whispered, reading the confusion and growing attraction in Elena's eyes. I feel it too. It's a bond between us. It is not simply gratitude or the result of our unusual circumstances. There is something more, something that calls. To the deepest part of my being, Lena leaned into Zara's touch, her logical mind warring with her heart. Everything about this situation defied explanation, yet she could not deny the truth of what she felt. In 3 short days, Zara had become more important to her than anyone she had ever known. From across the room, Jake watched them with a mixture of concern and something that might have been jealousy. The storm continued to rage outside, keeping them isolated from the world. And he wondered what would happen when the outside world inevitably intruded on this impossible romance between species. The 4th night brought a temporary lull in the storm, and with it, a crackling message over the emergency radio. Lena's heart sank as she heard the voice of Commander Harrison from the research base, informing them that rescue helicopters would attempt to reach them within 24 hours. That is wonderful news, Jake said with obvious relief. But Alina noticed that Zara had grown quiet and withdrawn since the transmission. Later that evening, as Jake worked on preparing their equipment for extraction, Alina found Zara standing by the small window, gazing out at the star-filled sky that was visible for the first time since their discovery. You are thinking about leaving, Alina said softly, approaching carefully. Zara did not turn around immediately. When your people come, they will want to study me. I understand this. I am an alien life form, a scientific curiosity that could advance human knowledge significantly. You are not a specimen, Alina said firmly, moving to stand beside her. We're a person with rights and feelings, and the freedom to choose your own path. Am I? Zara asked, finally turning to face Alina. In the starlight streaming through the window, her violet eyes seemed to glow with their own inner fire. I have studied your species, Alina. I know how you treat those who are different, those who do not fit into your established categories. Alina felt a surge of protectiveness that surprised her with its intensity. I won't let them hurt you, I promise. Zara smiled sadly, reaching up to touch Elena's face with infinite gentleness. One person, however kind and strong? What can you do against the weight of governments and military organizations and scientific institutions that would see me as a prize to be claimed? I don't know, Elena admitted, leaning into Zara's touch. But I know I cannot bear the thought of losing you now that I have found you. The words hung between them, an admission that changed everything. Zara's eyes widened with surprise and something that looked like hope. Elena, what are you saying? I'm saying that in 4 days, you have become more important to me than anything else in my life, Elena replied, her voice trembling with emotion. I am saying that the thought of them taking you away, of never seeing you again, makes me feel like I am drowning. Zara stepped closer, her hands framing Elena's face with infinite tenderness. Do you understand what you are saying? I am not human. I am a refugee from a dead world with no resources, no way to repay your kindness. I may never find the rest of my people. You would be choosing someone with no future to offer you. I would be choosing someone who makes me feel more alive than I've ever felt before, Elena replied, her hands coming up to cover Zara's. Someone whose courage and kindness and beauty take my breath away. Someone I think I could love if given the chance. The kiss happened naturally, inevitably, as if the universe had been leading them to this moment since the first crack appeared in the crystalline pod. Zara's lips were soft and warm, tasting faintly of the alien fruit she had described from her homeworld. Elena felt herself melting into the embrace, every nerve ending alive with sensation and emotion, when they finally broke apart. Both women were breathing heavily, their foreheads touching as they shared the same air. I have dreamed of this, Zara whispered, in the pod. In those long years of suspended animation, I dreamed of being held by someone who saw me as I truly am. Elena's heart was racing as she realized the magnitude of what was happening between them. Zara? Elena? Zara? Is everything all right? Jake's voice from across the laboratory broke the spell, and both women stepped back from each other. Though their hands remained joined, We are fine, Jake, Elena called back, her voice slightly unsteady, but Jake had already seen them in the embrace, silhouetted against the starlit window. His face went through a series of expressions, surprise, concern, and something that might have been jealousy or possessiveness. Lena, I need to speak with you, Jake said, his tone carefully controlled. Privately, Zara squeezed Elena's hand, gently, and then released it. I will prepare for rest. Tomorrow will be ... difficult. As Zara moved to the small sleeping area they had set up for her, Jake approached Elena with obvious tension in his posture. Lena, what are you doing? He demanded in a low voice. You are getting emotionally involved with an alien being whose psychology, biology, and motivations we know nothing about. I know everything I need to know about who she is as a person, Elena replied, her chin raised defiantly. Do you? Jake challenged. Elena, we have been partners for 3 years. Care about you. I have always cared about you more than I probably should have. But this, ... this, is madness. Elena stared at him in surprise. Jake, I know you have feelings for me too, Jake continued, moving closer. I've danced around it for years. Both too professional to acknowledge what was obvious to everyone around us. But now, faced with an impossible situation, you are transferring those feelings to someone who represents everything unknown and potentially dangerous. Elena felt a flash of anger at his presumption. Do not diminish what I feel by calling it transference. What Zara and I share is real and powerful and more honest than any relationship I have ever experienced. She is using you, Jake insisted. She is alone, vulnerable, dependent on your protection. Of course, she would encourage your feelings if it means survival. The accusation hit Elena like a physical blow, but before she could respond, Zara's voice cut through their argument. That is enough. Zara emerged from the shadows, her violet eyes blazing with anger and hurt. I may not understand all the nuances of your language, but I understand accusation and insult. Jake Morrison, you will not speak of Elena's feelings as if they are weakness or delusion. Jake turned to face her, his jaw set stubbornly. And you will not manipulate someone I care about for your own survival. The confrontation that followed would determine the fate of all. Three of them as rescue approached and the outside world prepared to intrude on their isolated sanctuary of discovery. An impossible love. The tension in the small laboratory was suffocating as the three of them faced off in a triangle of conflicting emotions and loyalties. Outside, the storm had completely cleared, leaving behind a crystalline world of ice and starlight that seemed to mock the chaos unfolding within their sanctuary. "I have never manipulated Elena's feelings," Zara said with quiet dignity, her violet eyes steady despite the obvious pain Jake's words had caused. "What exists between us grew naturally from mutual respect and genuine connection. See that perhaps the problem lies not with her judgment, but with your own fears." Jake's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "My fears? I am trying to protect her from making a mistake that could destroy her career, her reputation, her entire future. You ask her to choose you, but what can you offer her? You are a refugee with no resources, no legal status, possibly no surviving family or civilization to return to." "Shh, stop," Alina interjected, but he continued relentlessly. "When the government agents arrive with the rescue team, and they will arrive. Alina, make no mistake about that. They will take her for study, whether she consents or not. And anyone who tries to protect her will be seen as a security risk. You could lose everything." Lena felt the truth of his words like ice in her veins. But when she looked at Zara, she saw something that made her decision crystal clear. Zara was not afraid for herself. She was afraid for Alina, terrified that her presence had brought danger to the woman she had come to love. "Then we leave," Alina said quietly. Before they arrive, both Jake and Zara stared at her in shock. "Alina, what are you saying?" Jake demanded. "I am saying that I choose love over fear," Alina replied, moving to stand beside Zara. "I choose the unknown over the safe and predictable. I choose to trust what my heart tells me is real and worth fighting for." Zara caught Alina's hand, her expression torn between hope and terror. "Alina, you cannot. You have a life here, work that matters, research that could change how your people understand the oceans. I cannot ask you to abandon everything for me." "You're not asking," Alina said firmly. "I am choosing. For the first time in my life, I am choosing something based not on logic or career advancement or what others expect of me, but on what makes me feel truly alive." Jake stared at them both as if they had lost their minds. "Alina, be practical. Where would you go? How would you survive? Zara cannot exactly blend in with human society." "My ship," Zara said suddenly, her eyes brightening. "With possibility, it crashed approximately 15 kilometers from here, near the base of the Transantarctic Mountains. The main systems were damaged, but the life support and communication arrays might still be functional." Elena's pulse quickened with excitement and hope. "Could you repair it?" "Possibly. The technology is self-regenerating to some degree, given time and the right materials." Zara paused, looking between Alina and Jake. "But it would be incredibly dangerous. The crash site is in treacherous terrain, and if the ship is too damaged, then we die together rather than live apart," Alina said simply. "Zara, I have spent my entire career studying creatures that live in the deepest, most dangerous parts of the ocean. I understand risks, but I also understand that some things are worth any risk." The sound of approaching helicopters suddenly filled the air, growing louder by the second. Jake grabbed the emergency radio, his face grim. "This is Morrison at Research Station Alpha. We have the survivors secure and ready for extraction. ETA to pick up site?" "Negative, Morrison," came the crackling reply. "We have government agents on board with priority orders. Maintain current position and prepare for immediate containment protocols." Alina and Zara exchanged a look of understanding. Their time had run out. "Jake," Alina said urgently, "you have to give us a head start, please." Jake stared at her, torn between his duty and his feelings for the woman who had been his partner for 3 years. "Alina, this is insane. You are throwing away everything for someone you have known for 4 days." "I am choosing to follow my heart for the first time in my life," Alina replied, quickly gathering emergency supplies while Zara prepared what little remained of her alien technology. The helicopters were landing now, their rotor wash creating a whirlwind of snow and ice around the research station. Alina could see dark figures approaching, armed and purposeful. "Lena," Jake said desperately, catching her arm as she headed for the back exit. "I love you. I have always loved you.
Day.
And I will help you protect her. We will find a way to make this work within the system." Alina felt her heart break for him, this good man who had been such an important part of her life. "I love you too, Jake, but not the way I love her. You deserve someone who can love you completely without reservation. That person is not me." Jake's eyes filled with tears as he realized he had truly lost her. But as the sound of boots approached the laboratory entrance, he made his own choice. He moved to the radio and switched it off, then turned to face the door, blocking it with his body. "Go," he said quietly. "I will buy you as much time as I can." Alina kissed his cheek gently, a goodbye to their friendship and the life she was leaving behind. Then she and Zara slipped out the back exit into the bitter Antarctic night, carrying nothing but emergency supplies and a love that defied all logic. Behind them, she prepared to face the consequences of his choice, while ahead lay the unknown. Dangers of the frozen wasteland and the slim hope of reaching Zara's ship before their pursuers could track them down. As they disappeared into the star-filled darkness, two worlds and two hearts beat as one, united by the most powerful force in the universe, the choice to love without limits, regardless of the cost. The adventure was just beginning, and their love would be tested by trials that would either forge them into something unbreakable or destroy them both in the attempt. But Alina had made her choice, and she would face whatever came next with Zara by her side, knowing that some loves are worth any sacrifice.